So the one the one comment I hear all the time is, "Oh, are all your clients rich?" Or you'd have to be very wealthy to get a personal chef. And actually, it seems like that, but a lot of people who eat out actually save a lot of money with personal chefing.
Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 143 of the Camano Voice. Today I speak with the founder of Rainbow Eats. Please welcome Courtney Bourasaw. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview local business owners, comedians, singers, and more. I dive into their backstory to find out how they got where they are, what are some of the tips for you to do the same, and find out where they are going. Tune in every week as I interview more of the people you see every day. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. How's your week going? We had Memorial Day weekend over this last weekend. Of course, this is going to come out a week after that because, recording times and all that stuff. But weather wasn't super great, but still had a good weekend. Not that anybody would know this or probably care much, but Real Madrid, who is the football/soccer team I support, won a very big tournament over in Europe, and so that was very exciting. They were considered the underdogs in that game. So that was my weekend. Very exciting. Besides that, mowed the lawn and got some stuff done. So anyways, overall a good weekend. Today I interview Courtney Bourasaw, who is the founder of Rainbow Eats, which is a catering company. She does personal chefing, and she also puts on these amazing farm-to-tables that my wife and I were actually able to go to at Rachel Pygott. I don't know if you remember her podcast, but she has Island Harvest Farms. We got to do it over there and had a fantastic time, really good food. So I'm hoping to maybe do that again this year. So she does all of that and more. So I got to sit down with her, talk to her a little bit about how she got started in the business, how she kind of pivoted from, culinary and then deciding that she wanted to go out on her own rather than jumping into a restaurant or something. I also wanted to note in this podcast, this is actually recorded shortly after her stepdaughter passed away from an inoperable brain tumor. And she had just actually gotten back from the memorial service, which was out of state. So she had flown back in and come to do the podcast. Of course, I didn't know all of this during the recording, and we kind of find this out as we go through, but just amazed by her strength and, pushing through everything. So I have a lot of respect for her and what she's doing. Also really enjoy the food that she makes. So we will get into all of that and more. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Courtney Bourasaw. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the founder of Rainbow Eats. Welcome to the podcast, Courtney Bourasaw.
Thanks for having me.
And I just realized that I didn't ask about the last name.
That is actually right, yeah.
Yes! Okay, I got that one. All right, so before we get started, tell us a little bit about Courtney.
My name's Courtney Bourasaw. I'm 31 years old. I'm a mother to 4 children. Wow. And I've been married a couple years. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I moved to Camino Island, 9 years ago.
Okay. Nice. So, how was growing up in LA? Were you in the main city part?
I was in LA County, but I was outside of LA in a small town. It lacked a lot of diversity and wasn't like your typical LA city.
Okay.
But we were homeschooled up until I was in high school.
Wow.
And it was very different than life here.
Yeah. And was homeschooling pretty common in that area?
No, my parents just decided. We started off at a private Christian school when we were kids, and then I think first grade, my parents pulled us out and decided to homeschool.
Okay. So. Yeah, because we moved up here from Tucson, Arizona, and in Arizona, nobody homeschools. And so we moved up here, and my parents were like, well, where's the school system? And they're like, well, Camano doesn't have one, but Stanwood does. And then after we started getting to know people, they're like, well, we just homeschool. And my parents were like, so you don't school your kids? And like, no, we homeschool. And so it was just funny because like California, it's not as common for homeschool.
Right, it's not. Do your kids go to public school now?
They're kind of all over the place. We've got
okay.
some one in public school, some in private school, some in like homeschool / private school. So
Okay.
they're all over the place. So,
Interesting.
yeah, very cool. So growing up then, how many, did you have a lot of siblings?
I have 3 siblings, an older half brother and 2 younger siblings, a brother and a sister, but I was the oldest in my household.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So how was that growing up? Were you kind of typical older sister?
Still am.
Yeah.
I have the bossy personality, and I do a lot more than my siblings. They fit in their roles well too.
Yes.
But we had a pretty chaotic house life, and so my childhood wasn't that fantastic. When I was about 15, I moved out of my home and was kind of on my own after that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, birth order is such a fascinating thing to me
really
because
is.
when you start looking into it, it's true across the board, regardless of culture, background, or financial standings, or like it's just really interesting how it always kind of.
Are you
falls in
oldest?
place. No, I'm actually youngest.
Oh, then I won't tell you what I think of my younger brother.
Yeah, someday I'll get my sister on the podcast, but I don't know how well she's gonna. No, I'm just kidding.
She'll probably pick on you.
Yeah, no, she's great. Awesome. So then, when you were going to school, or as you were getting close to kind of graduating and all of that, what were you kind of thinking at that point? Like, were you just planning on just jumping into work or looking at colleges, or?
So neither. I didn't have a typical. I didn't graduate from high school. I was getting into a lot of trouble, and I kind of ran around and did some illegal activities for the first couple years of adulthood. And then when I was 21, I got clean. So on May 1st, I'll have 10 years clean.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And so I started my adulthood off pretty rough.
Okay.
And then when I was 21 years old, I got pregnant with my first son, and my grandparents live here on Camano Island. And my grandma said, hey, move up here. We'll help you get to college. And I didn't look back. So I moved up here when I was 6 months pregnant with my son.
Okay.
And went to Skagit Valley College. And that's where I did culinary arts.
Yep. Very cool. So for you then, because I know, I've listened to interviews of people who've kind of come out of rough situations. For you, what was the point that made you decide, like, no, I'm going to change this?
The last time I was in jail, I had a friend there who had gotten out, and when she was in jail, her mom passed away, and she wasn't there for her mom. And I kind of understood just seeing her hurt, how much that really affected her. And I thought, with all that I had put my mom through, I felt like it was time to just shape up and get my life together. And then I was 6 months clean when I got pregnant, and that was kind of like, I feel like God kind of said, like, this is going to be the thing that like really defines your life, and that's who you're going to be as a mom versus the things that you were beforehand.
Yeah.
So
cool. So then, upon coming up, you said you moved up here when you were 6 months pregnant, and then at that point, you decided to start going to school as well then?
Yeah, so I did online classes at Skagit to start off until I had my son. I had my son in June, and then in September, I went to school full-time at Skagit Valley College, and I actually graduated early with highest honors.
Wow.
And I just loved doing well in something good.
Yeah.
And I did all the extra stuff that I could, and that's actually where my business started, is when I was in school.
Okay. Nice. So that's a ton to juggle because, we've got 4 kids, but it's a lot. Like having a kiddo, starting to go to college and everything. How did you decide on culinary arts?
I can't even remember the moment. I know that when I was before I was pregnant, I was in a sober living home. And there was a lady who would employ some of those staff there, and she had her own catering business. And I remember being so intrigued that a human being could have their own business. Like I didn't understand small businesses at that point. I just thought everything was corporations and like big companies. And so she had started her own catering business, and I was really intrigued by that. And that's where I kind of developed my passion. My dad is half Lebanese, half German, but he grew up in Honduras.
Okay.
And then my mom, before she met my dad, dated a Korean for a long time. So they had all these like different cultural food aspects that they brought in and that I grew up with. So I had all kinds of food that I grew up with, and I always really liked cooking, but more than cooking, I really enjoyed hosting. And I think that's kind of where I get my passion for like the farm to tables, is that like almost experience versus just feeding people.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. So one of the my previous guests on the podcast, Brian, who's our head roaster next door, he was like, he was talking about you, and he's like, oh yeah, I know Courtney. And so
he was. He worked at the college when I worked there. So and we've done a couple caterings together too.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it was fun talking with him, because I just think of him as like the head roaster, but then I started talking about the food and like the stuff he started doing. It was a lot of fun. So
that's cool.
Very cool. So then, so when you were there, you said you worked there a little bit as well. Then did you work at the college?
So when I started going to school, I didn't have to work. My grandparents helped me out financially, and I got a lot of, because I was a single mom, so I applied for a lot of grants, so I was taken care of there. But in my second year, I think it was, you have to do an internship.
Okay.
You have to work at a restaurant. There's not any other personal chefs, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. Being the oldest and bossy, you don't want a boss, and so I knew that I wanted my own business. But I did an internship. I started off at the Camano Island Inn.
Okay.
And then I went to Rockaway, and then I finished off at Nelthorne in the Connor.
Oh wow. Okay.
And in that time, somewhere in between that time, my teacher would get emails from people wanting the school to cater, and if they couldn't do it, they would offer it to me. And that's how I got my business started, is just them referring me. And I was really nervous, like, I don't know how to cost anything out. I don't know how to like run an event. But my teachers were really supportive, and they actually helped guide me into like starting my business and figuring that out. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So then what was that like when they were like, here's someone that wants a catering thing, and it was your first one? How did that kind of go for you?
Well, first I felt really honored, because I don't think they do that very often. I felt like they trusted me, and for like the first time in my life, I had somebody that I looked up to that also almost looked up to me and like honored who I was. So that felt really great. And then I remember the first one we did, I worked with another student who helped, and we sat down with the people that needed the catering, and he's like, okay, how much do you charge? And we're like, we have no idea. So he's like, so here's your budget for food. Like, I'll give you $500 to spend on food. And how much do you charge an hour? And I was like, well, I make $13 an hour. And he's like, how about 25? And I remember being like so shocked that I was getting $25 an hour. And I was like, okay, good deal. And it just was like trial and error. And I ended up moving back to LA for about a year and a half after I had graduated. And that's when I really started my business. And it was as simple as putting an ad on Craigslist. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no experience, no training in personal chefing. And I just kind of like built a system. And that's, 7 years ago. And I'm still tweaking things and like figuring things out. But it was pretty much just putting myself out there and figuring what worked and taking a lot of feedback. I always offered open communication to my clients and said, like, if there's something you don't like, let me know. If you too much salt or bigger portions or smaller portions, like, let me know so that I can get to know you, because everybody is different.
Yeah.
But at least having that understanding of how my clients are really helped.
Yeah. So where did you guys, how did you get the capital? Because there's also there's equipment, there's all the different things. How did you kind of get into that?
I just started doing things. So like with personal chefing, I didn't really need any equipment because I was just going to people's homes.
Okay.
But with catering, like every time I did a catering event, most of the profit that I made off of it, I would go buy more catering equipment and stuff. And with catering, people will make deposits. So usually I would use that initial deposit to go buy any equipment that I needed. And I mean, I don't even know how much equipment I have. It's a big storage unit full of equipment. And probably half of it I don't need. But almost every event, I have to buy some piece of equipment and just build it up that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So, So you moved back down to LA then, and you started doing some events down there, or personal chefing?
Both, yeah.
Both, okay. What kind of led you back up to here then?
I realized I hated it down there, and I didn't know why I moved back. It's hot and dirty, and even though I didn't go back to anything that was bad for me, I just love being in Washington. I really like being close to my grandparents. I felt like I had more resources here, and I did worry about when I moved back, because I didn't personal chef when I lived up here originally.
Yeah.
I did worry about clients, but in my first month, I had 3 steady clients from moving back. So my business actually, and I probably would have done well in LA, but it did better here in Washington than it ever did in LA. So it worked out.
Very cool. Well, I also think that has to do with your passion of being there, because like as humans, like we are able to sense when someone's not happy or is excited.
That's true.
So you being back in your, what you think is your home now is great.
Definitely.
So as you kind of got with personal chefing and stuff, I don't think a lot of people have a huge amount of experience with that. How does that kind of work for people?
So the one comment I hear all the time is, are all your clients rich? Or you'd have to be very wealthy to get a personal chef. And actually, it seems like that, but a lot of people who eat out actually save a lot of money with personal chefing, because what I tend to see happen is people will go out on a Sunday and they'll buy all their groceries, and then they don't want to cook, so all the groceries go bad, and then they eat out in addition to that. And so a lot of my clients spend a lot less doing personal chefing. My clients have a Google Docs account. Every week they upload their menu to it, and then they also have like any dietary restrictions or things they don't like. So like right now I have one that's not eating tomatoes, or somebody who doesn't like olives, and I base their menu around that. All my clients have a certain way that they eat, and they could say, like, let's say for instance they're keto. If they just say in their Google Docs, we want lasagna, I know that needs to be a keto lasagna. And so I just like accommodate their special diets that way. Yeah. So they upload it there, and then I'll go out and do the shopping right before I go to their house. And then I come to their house, I cook everything, I package it up, and then I leave. I charge hourly for that, and then the clients pay the cost of the groceries. And some of my clients will do like cooking classes. And so I've had clients where I'm preparing their meals for the week, and they're in the kitchen learning how to use a knife, or how to, prepare something, or how to season the meat, or whatever it is. So I like the personal chefing because it's kind of like that steady income, and then it's also like my quiet time. Most of my clients are gone during the day when I'm there, so it's I get to listen to my podcast and have conversations in my head, and it's kind of like my escape from everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Very cool. So then, is it kind of a either or as far as like menu planning and stuff? Like the clients can either like say, hey, we're really in the mood for this, or if they don't have ideas, can they just say, hey, can you throw together a menu plan? Yeah,
so it used to be, when I first started up here, I had a client who it would be like 5 minutes before I left to come there, and they'd be like, we want to eat this. And so I started doing like, you have to give me 24 hours notice.
Yeah.
And then some clients were like, we just forget too much, and there's too much reminders, and you know us so well, would you mind picking out our menus? And at first I was a little hesitant, because I was like, what if I don't know what they like? But most of my clients I've had for 3 years or more, and I know exactly what they like. And so if they don't upload anything, then I just go in there and I pick what they want to eat. And they like it too. So
that's
it works
awesome.
Out. Yeah.
Very cool. So then how did you balance building the business while also raising 4 kiddos?
Well, I didn't have 4 kids until recently. Okay. So one of my kids is my stepdaughter, and I didn't meet my husband until 2017. Okay. So we each had a kid when we met, and then we have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old together.
Okay, wow.
But I did plan my pregnancies around my busy season. So the last 2 pregnancies. So my 2-year-old was born in November, and I was like fully pregnant all through summer. And then my last one was born in February of last year. And so I just make sure that I'm not delivering a baby when I also have to be at a wedding or something. So, but it is hard sometimes, because there was times where my husband was gone on the weekend, and I would have 3 kids and I'd be out shopping for a 200-person wedding with 3 kids. And so
my word.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Wow. So then, how has your business evolved over time then? As you started with personal chefing and then started doing catering, how's that continued to evolve?
So with personal chefing, I feel like I've got to the point where I have a pretty good understanding of like what people's needs are. And I have a pretty good understanding if somebody's serious about it. Like I get a lot of people that inquire, oh, I want to change my eating and I want to do this. And you can almost always tell right off the bat if they're going to be committed or not. And for me, that's really important. I want somebody who is invested in this. And I've had clients where they order food every week for years, and I'll go in the next week and half the food's still in there. And it's just like they want to eat out or they're not home. And so I feel like I've built these really good relationships with my clients. And I would say that a lot of them are like family to me. But I have a system that works really well for me with the Google Docs and like the contract and just like the expectations that I have. Whereas when I first started, it was like, I don't care who you are or what you do, like I'll just take the business kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people do when they start. And then same thing with catering. Like when I first started catering, I didn't really understand all the pieces that went into it, which is very common if you've never done it before.
Right.
But now that I have a really wide understanding of like what I have to do, what other vendors have to do, what my clients have to do, I express that to my clients and basically have it where we know what we're like getting into when we like agree to a contract. So.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So then on top of that, then you've done a lot of like farm to table events.
Yeah.
When did that kind of get folded into the mix?
I had seen somebody do it on Instagram, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do. Because when I went to Skagit Valley College, they had like a garden outside, and a lot of our field trips were going to like local farms, local butcher shops, and so I kind of got that passion for local stuff there. And then Rachel from Island Harvest was at a farmer's market here, actually.
Yeah.
And I approached her and was like, hey, do you want to do farm to table? And she's like, oh, liability. And I was like, okay, we'll figure it out. And so she like opened her farms to me and let me take that space, and has been amazing. And I love doing that there. But I've also done a farm to table at Hoppy Hollow, and I'm going to start branching out this year and doing more at other places too.
Very cool. So what, for those who don't know, what makes a farm to table different than a standard catering event or something else?
So a farm to table event is like, first of all, there's ticket sales. So like a catering event is usually where I work with one client. A farm to table is going to be open to the public, so anybody can come and purchase the ticket. I think not just with catering and personal chefing, but in general, my farm to tables are really unique because everything is 100% local. So all the fats that I use, all the spices that I use, seasonings, all my ingredients, my flowers are local, my decorations are local, my candles are local. It's more of like, it's not just about the food, but it's definitely about the experience. And then also there's a part where you get to learn about your local farmers or where to source things, or not everything has to have the label organic for it to be good for you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. That's one of the biggest things I think when it comes to retail, or really as we move more towards this like digital age of like Amazon and ordering online, and half the stuff you do is just on a computer. What we're finding is like people aren't, like, they don't need more stuff. They can get stuff on Amazon. But what you can't get on Amazon are experiences. So, like, the marketplace, when my dad designed it, was this whole area was designed to be an experience for people. When they came to Camano, they got to see the beaches, they got to get some bakery items and have an experience here that they got to take home with them.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can't just go buy it, online.
Totally, yeah.
And so we've actually been able to, my wife and I were able to go to one of your guys' farm to tables.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. It was great to see everything. It was really good.
Thank you.
And so one of the things that stood out to me is you had your farm to table, and at that event you had a theme to it.
Yep.
Is that true for all of your farm to tables?
Yep. So typically what I've done, last year I only did that one farm to table. But the 2 years before, what I did is early in the season, I would pick my themes based
Okay.
off of like what was in season. And then I would plan my menu around the theme.
Okay.
So,
Very cool. So, what are some of your favorite, or like, do you have a favorite theme that you've done at a dinner?
yeah, last year's was my favorite theme. And I'm going to cry. But it was in honor of my stepdaughter,
Okay.
who had terminal brain cancer. She just passed away last week. But that was so much fun, and we did it kid themed. And I just felt like, one, everybody had been cooped up from the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that was my largest farm to table. We had a ton of people. We had 50 people, which I think the most I've had is like 38.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do a play on kids' food. And so we did, I don't remember everything that we did, but I do remember the mac and cheese, mostly because it took forever. And then chicken nuggets. But I wanted people to like guess and play around. I wanted it to be an experience. And I felt I had a lot of fun doing that, like bringing plates out, and people were like, what is this supposed to be? And then when people would guess, I just felt like it was really exciting. So
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was so cool, and there was prizes for if you guessed it right, and that's very cool.
The raffle too is like one of my favorite things to do, and we've done that at every event, and it really came because I had all these beautiful flowers out there, and even with my staff taking some, like we couldn't take them all home, and so. And it also, people wanted to tip, and I didn't want to have a tip jar out, and I wanted people to appreciate the workers, the staff, and do it in like, you know, a classier way, not like a tip jar. And so we ended up doing, you can buy a raffle ticket, and then for like a candle or for a bouquet of flowers. And Rachel will usually donate a basket of produce, and my chicken farmer will donate chicken or something like that. So I like doing the raffle too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it feels like we're finally moving into a year that we have more things open, and we're kind of getting integrated into society. What's kind of this year look like planned out for you?
So Rachel and I have been going back and forth. Usually what I do is I wait till like the majority of my weddings are booked, and then I book or I'll schedule the farm to tables around them. We are going to have 5, so June, July, August, September, October.
Wow.
Which is what I did in 2020, and then 2019 I think I did 4. Actually I did 4 in 2020 also. But I feel like those each have like their own kind of season to them here. We're still figuring out the dates only because we're trying to work around other people's events here on Camino. And be respectful of that too. So hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be able to release those dates, and you can find the dates either on my website at rainbow-eats.com or on Rachel's website, Island Harvest Farm.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll have that linked in the show notes for sure.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. And then are you already starting to plan out like your themes on those guys?
Not yet. We just got back. We were in Oklahoma for a couple months with my stepdaughter. So I just went back to work yesterday and still figuring out life. And but I am really eager to get those dates put out there so people can put them on their calendars.
Yeah,
so.
That's very cool. Yeah, no, we had a great time last year, and it'd be fun. I'm going to see if I can get a couple more people involved this time and get a small group to go out to it again. I do appreciate that most everybody wanted to sit at the big table. In 2020, of course, people wanted their own tables. But for me, like connecting people did you guys know anybody there really besides Rachel? To me, that is like the best part is so many friendships are created. People go home with friends that they never even knew before, and so I really do enjoy that part, but it's good to bring friends too. No, it was it was great to see it all and to be there, and then we got to do the little tour, farm walk around and all that. So awesome. All right, and then do you have any other type of events or things that you have coming up in this next year? So I will be doing a couple events at Happy Hollow. She does nice. On Friday nights she does like a happy hour. I can't remember what she calls it, but so I'll be doing food at some of those events, and then possibly some more in Cedro, but those are to be determined. So, I just had Kate on the podcast
Oh, did you?
recently.
Oh,
and
okay,
she
cool.
was talking about the different summer events that she's got going on.
Yeah,
So
cool.
Yeah, hopefully summer fills up so quickly. So I'm
It
like, I
does.
don't know if we can or not, but it'd be great to get out there.
Yeah.
It sounds really fun.
Oh, you haven't been there yet?
No,
Yeah, it's
I've
really
been
beautiful.
out to check out the
Yeah.
different events and live
Yeah.
music and stuff. So
Yeah, that's cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most in the last 3 months?
I got In-N-Out a couple days ago,
Aw.
and that's like my favorite thing in the world. I heard that they're opening one in Oak Harbor. Did you hear that?
No.
I don't know
Was
if
that-
it's true.
Was that on April 1st?
No, somebody told me that. If
Okay.
they're lying to me, I'm going to be really upset. But growing up in LA, like In-N-Out was my thing, so I got it less than a week ago, and yeah,
Nice.
favorite
Oh,
purchase.
Man, I'm jealous. I love In-N-Out. All right. Who is the most influential person outside of your family in your life?
Man, that's such a hard question because I don't feel like there's one person in my life that's really influential. I feel like there's so many people in my life,
Yeah.
and they all have a piece of them that I really admire. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to go with everybody.
Yeah, very cool. All right. This is a fill in the blank question. So I know this is weird, but I've always wanted to blank.
Have 10 kids.
Oh my goodness.
I would seriously have like as many kids as my body would allow. If my husband, we're getting old. We can't have 10 kids at this point, but maybe we'll adopt later.
Yeah, very cool. That is my wife and I, when we were getting married, we were both like, well, yeah, we want to have a big family when we get married. And so they were like, someone asked like, well, how many kids is that? And so Brittany goes, 12. And I go, 3.
There's a big difference there.
Slight difference, yeah. So we tended closer to what my number was.
What did you settle on?
We're on 4 now.
Okay.
So we had settled on 5, and then we had our 4th son. And, like, we had twins.
Uh-huh.
And then 20 months later, we had our first son. So 2 girls and a boy. And we're like, okay, if we can handle 3 kids under 2, like, we can get through anything.
Right.
And then we had our 4th son, and he had his nights and days mixed for the first 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
Like, nothing kept him happy. Like, he was always, like, pretty happy, but he just was so busy.
Right.
And we're like, I think we're done. I think 4 are good.
I always say that I got tricked into having more kids because my first son was an angel, and my second kid was a little bit harder. But my third kid, my daughter, my 1-year-old, oh my goodness, that girl is sassy. She's something else.
Yeah, it's just great how each kid is so different.
Yep.
And they just, yeah, each one, throws you for a loop every day. So, very cool. All right. Who is an interesting or fascinating person that I should interview next?
What about Carrie Parks? Have you interviewed
No.
here? Okay. So Carrie Parks, she's out of Arlington, and she's also a flower farmer. She's
Okay.
a good friend of mine, Kari.
Kate.
And she has Flourish Organic Farms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. And lastly, what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I don't know. So at 20, I was still using, but I don't know that I would go back and change anything that happened in the last 10 years. I think I would say just do what you did, because I'm really happy with where I am today.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, it seems like you've come through so much, and to get to where you are, and that's really neat to see all that you've accomplished at this point.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Very cool. So before we go, tell the listeners where they can find you on the social medias, websites, all that stuff.
You can find me Instagram. I think it's rainbow.eats. Facebook is Rainbow Eats. And then you can find me on my website, rainbow-eats.com.
Okay. All right. And we'll have that all linked in the show notes. And be sure to keep checking the website for those dates as those start coming out for those farm-to-table dinners.
Yeah. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Courtney Bourasaw for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/podcast. That's CamanoCommons.com/podcast. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.